Hello, I'm Terry Long, the Director of Specialty Crop Market News with the United States Department of Agriculture, proudly serving as the chairman of the Market Information Organization of the Americas, known as MIOA or OIMA in Spanish, a network of the institutions that track agricultural markets within the nations of the Americas. OIMA is honored to participate in this virtual PIMA Congress, and we congratulate you and we wish you great success. So speaking about OIMA, the main purpose or objective of OIMA is to facilitate the timely, accurate, and consistent exchange of reliable agricultural market information to the benefit of the nations of the Americas. OIMA was established in the year 2000 and has 33 member countries, formed into 5 regions as a network of cooperation among the leading institutions in these countries that are tracking agricultural markets. The 4 key principles of OIMA are: market information is a public good. We believe cooperation leads to mutual benefits. Also, exposure to new ideas and practices stimulates innovation and continuous improvement. And then lastly, timely, reliable, impartial market information is essential for an efficient agricultural marketing system. So, who are we? Why are we relevant to this Congress and to the various stakeholders in general? We know that market information is a critical business intelligence tool. And as OIMA, we represent the institutions and the professionals that cover these critical markets every day and make that information available to the public for the benefit of all. Our market reporters and data collectors, data analysts, and information system managers are a key part of a modern and well-functioning market structure. It's been said that the most important tool in business is information. Therefore, you might think of OIMA and our partners, these institutions, as the eyes and ears of agriculture. Today, we were asked to address what things we have seen, changed, or highlighted regarding agricultural market information system in the hemisphere during the global pandemic. I would like to talk about 3 key effects or impacts on market information systems in this period that we're passing through, and a little about the role that OIMA has played. So as we see it, the key effects are an increase in the recognition of value of market information, an increase in demand for timely, reliable market information, and new reports that were created using new tools, again, in responsive to the demands of this global pandemic and the impact on our food systems and our market. So first, let's talk about recognition of value. The impact of the pandemic was seen quickly in the very early days, most notably in the food service and the tourism industries with the widespread shutdowns. The supply chain was disrupted in many ways, as were the normal ways of doing business in the food industry. Government leaders and policymakers, as well as buyers and sellers in the sector, were actually anxiously looking for information on supplies, transportation issues, and prices for key products and critical markets. In some cases, market reporters and inspectors were given special authority to travel to work these markets, even during restricted periods, given the critical nature of their work. In the case of USDA, it identified its frontline workers, like market reporters, as mission critical. This recognition of the importance of a near real-time agricultural market information became clear to a wider evidence than ever before, as even large traders needed reliable information during this tumultuous and uncertain period. Recognition of value came from buyers and sellers on the individual markets or the auctions. For some, such as certain large supermarket store buyers, they often felt they were the market setters, and they only looked at market reports for volume and general trend. With the disruption to the supply chain and to the markets, they were much more now involved with our information professionals, as they needed that benefit and that information as well. So many of the people that we worked on the markets with expressed appreciation that these market reporters and other data collectors and the inspectors were on the front lines with them every day. It was the sense of a shared experience and a recognition of the value of the work in collecting timely, reliable information on our food markets around the world. Attached here is a sample of the letter that USDA provided for our staff to show to enforcement officials as they were moving around to accomplish their job. In other words, if you were stopped, you had a letter authorizing you for this particular movement. We're continuing to see in many areas of the country public assistance. I should say many of the countries around the world, we're seeing a dramatic increase in the need for public assistance, particularly food purchases for the needy. The information services and the market reports that we issue as the professionals of Oima were used to support these domestic feeding programs in many countries, with actual current market prices for major products, information on the supplies available in our markets, and they were used frequently as a benchmark for government purchases. Information is shared widely with other agencies and assists in setting policies. So these efforts of the market information system professionals have a wide benefit. Here's a couple of the logos from the feeding programs, food box programs, one from USDA and one from our colleagues in Panama. Speaking of recognition of value, it also comes from some of the work we've been doing in the Caribbean region, where Oima has been cooperating with CARICOM, the Caribbean community, focused particularly on improving market intelligence in the Caribbean region. While a key benefit of timely and reliable market information has been to support our growers and our buyers and sellers during the pandemic, it has made its large value of having this real-time information and how we assess the impact on our markets, our food supply, and on our citizens in all of our nations. Oima just completed our series of one-on-one interviews and surveys of the members in the Caribbean region, and we'll be providing a summary of the results of that survey to the members and to the CARICOM working group we've been dealing with. So the other thing, an increase in demand for market information. We know from our own experiences in USDA market news that the demand for market information went up during the start of the pandemic, and that demand increases to an extent today. For USDA market news and for many of our partners, I suspect, we were asked to provide detailed daily reports to the government policymakers. Additionally, there were additional data and information requests that came to us specifically from the highest level of the department. Run this particular data, find out this information. We know that our colleagues in other countries with well-developed market information systems had the same experience. The demand was ever more obvious, and for them, it was more of a challenge when their limited human resources were available to meet this demand. So going back to our outreach effort in the Caribbean region of Oima, we surveyed 12 institutions and asked about this increase in demand for information, either from the government or from the private sector. The answer was nearly unanimous. Yes, demand has increased notably. People wanted and needed to know. And we have a graph showing that response from those nations here. And the next slide. Increased demand for market information within your organization, again, was nearly unanimous among the 12 nations of the Caribbean region. So we also talked about new reports using new tools. Now, USDA, like many of our counterparts in the hemisphere, were tasked with creating these new daily reports for decision makers that I spoke of. Many of these reports, if not most, were not made public, as they contain sensitive trade or personal information. Over time, many of these reports ceased to be issued daily. Instead, they were replaced by weekly summaries. And in fact, we put one here on this slide to show you. Basically, this is a summary of what we saw in the U.S. markets, shipping point, wholesale, and retail. And again, a report that we provide to government policy makers. However, as we've created some of these new reports for internal use only, some of the charts and table that went into those reports have made their way into our public reports. And again, here we have a couple examples of graphs that were created for our policymakers, but they were deemed very useful for our customers in the public sector as well. So we now make them a part of our public reports. Here, I wanted to give a slide highlighting the work that our colleagues in Canada did. Again, the same concept of creating a dashboard for this pandemic, a COVID dashboard, if you will, for their policy makers using new data visualization tools to help them tell the stories. Now, other partners, other countries in Oima did similar things, but we highlighted this to give you an example of some of these are public. Many were created just for internal policymakers. So speaking of new tools, we as market reporters were forced to adopt new practices to collect market information as travel or access to the markets was restricted. So I mentioned USDA gave special authority to our market reporters under their mission critical status. Therefore, we were mostly able to travel to the markets in person, but we still had to occasionally call, text, or email some contacts for information. Many of our colleagues in other countries had periods where they had to completely cover their wholesale markets remotely because they were either not allowed to access the market or not allowed to travel from their homes. It's important to note here that our reporters and data collectors could not be successful without the cooperation of the industry. Having timely and reliable market information is a team effort between our information specialists and our industry contacts and government partners. So speaking on behalf of Oima, what's next for us? We continue to work together as we have for 20 years to improve the quality and the range of market information that we make available to our industries and to our nations. I thank you for your attention. And again, we appreciate the opportunity to tell you about the work we're doing as market information specialists and working together as Oima. Thank you.